Howdy, howdy, everybody out there in YouTube land. Welcome back to my little digital slice of the grand land of Olean. So, before we jump into chapter 2, I want to do a quick little trick for you just to get us started. Now, anytime that a magician does something, especially for like an opening type of trick, you want that trick to be something that's eye catching. For instance, you take this joker and you just give it a little bit of a rub, and it will become your card. Absolutely fantastic. You take that card and put it back into the deck, whoop, 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 and it's gone. But nothing in the hands, but watch very carefully, and that card, hold on, gotta warm it up a little bit. That card will magically appear on top of the deck. What? So that move is actually one of the hardest moves to do, and hopefully it looked good on camera for you today. I have been working on that move, no joke, for years. Years. Excited. Now, let's get started today with reading chapter 2. Precursor. This is section 2, precursors. Items that precede and indicate, suggest, or announce something to come. Here we go. Chapter 2. The hierarchy of mystery entertainment. From our side of the fence, we do effects. From the spectator's side, our routines fall into one of 3 broad categories. We're talking puzzles, tricks, and that ever elusive extraordinary moment. While the lines between these categories are exceedingly blurry, most magic performed around the world falls into the first category, puzzles. The spectator intuitively knows that what he has just seen, to one degree or another, impossible, improbable, or just weird, she cannot figure it out, but she assumes that if she knew the secret, she too could perform it too. A trick is a demonstration of perceived skill, and therefore is more impressive than a puzzle. I say perceived skill because the audience doesn't care whether the signed card found is its way into your wallet via a beautifully executed one-handed palm or one of the no palming required methods. Either way, you got it in there by some unknown manner, so you get credited with possessing a highly specialized and secret skill. Overwhelmingly, professional magicians perform tricks. That's not a... This is a tough one for me. Pejorative statement. Tricks have the ability to thoroughly and Words today are troubling. If you know what that word is, go ahead and put it down in the comment section below. But thoroughly and satisfyingly, that's the word we're looking for, entertain the pantheon of magic's elite thrill their audiences with wonderful tricks. An extraordinary moment leaves no room for explanation. The viewer gasps for air rather than grasp for a method. Skill is not an issue. So, as a really breakdown for those 3 things, you have the puzzle, the trick, and the extraordinary moment. The puzzle, I mean, you might have different people that want different things. So if you can figure out what your spectator wants, you can control the crowd better, which is really what entertaining is. You can have, for instance, you can have actors and actresses perform magic better than some magicians because they understand how to entertain. It could be the simplest trick in the world, but if they can get you hooked, you're going to win every single time. So it's very important to consider this, that when it comes to magic, like we learned in the example from yesterday, that Professor's Nightmare is one of the greatest rope tricks that you can do. Rope tricks are just beautiful to behold, but if you're not entertaining while you're doing it, you're losing something in the process of that. So you really want to make sure that what you are saying and what you are doing is resonating with the audience so that it doesn't feel like you're trying to trick them, because that's what you're doing. You're doing a trick, but you're not coming into it going, I bet you can't figure out what I'm doing, unless that's your persona. But in the reality of it, all you're trying to do is say, "Hey, look, I have something really cool to show you. Why don't we go ahead and take this journey together?" A perfectly executed Balducci levitation is an extraordinary moment. Four jokers that change into four kings may elicit cries of "No freaking way!" But it's not an extraordinary moment. It's a terrific trick. A good number of the routines on David Blaine's first couple of TV specials attained extraordinary moment status. He rendered speechless many of his spectators. As magicians, we knew that few of his effects required more than a moderate level of manual dexterity. Yet again and again, the reactions approached religious ecstasy. I understand that we saw what the video editors wanted us to see. That's not the issue. What we did see was a series of extraordinary reactions. Close up performers have more opportunities to deliver extraordinary moments than stage performers. The physical separation between the stage performer and the audience works against his achieving anything more than tricks. It may be awesome, wonderful, and hugely entertaining. But stage conjuring will always, with only the rare exception, fall within the trick category. And top flight mentalists tend to perform extraordinary moments more than magicians. What do you well let's think about that for a second. So why would a mentalist perform more extraordinary moments than a magician? Well, a magician is flowy and moving around and has stuff to look at, right? With a mentalist, you have to pull off mental feats that happen more in the mind. So yeah, they're creating the narrative as they go. Whereas if, for instance, with a stage show, let's say a magician puts his assistant inside of a box and then twirls it around, and then the assistant is now behind the box and the magician is in the box. You can follow that story and go, haha, they did really good. You kind of know what happened, even if you don't know what happened. I mean, I can't see what's going on. They choreographed that, playing it very well. But with a mentalist trick, if they can pinpoint what it is that you're thinking through the tricks and tactics that they use, but they build up this narrative within you that you have followed throughout the whole routine, you're now a part of the magic. It's happening in your brain. You're part of the story, which is absolutely beautiful. So, what do you do? If you perform puzzles exceedingly well, you can be the life of the party. You can also make a living behind the counter at a magic shop. People enjoy puzzles, anagrams, crossword puzzles, brain teasers. They're fun. They're also commonplace and rarely reward the performer with a lasting career. Superb tricks and the occasional extraordinary moments, those should be your goals. Yeah, uh, absolutely. So, for instance, let's take the Rubik's Cube, for instance. It's a puzzle. That's literally like it's literally what it is. It's a puzzle. And so we have all these tricks that were designed on how to solve the puzzle in a fascinating way, in an impossible way. But if you watch cubers that solve it in 4 seconds, it's already impossible. Like if you, I solved the cube in a minute and 17 minutes. That was my fastest time so far. Absolutely happy with that time. It took me a while to get there. Hope my next milestone is getting under a minute, which will be consistently under a minute will be ideal. So ultimately, what happens though is that if you're performing all of these feats of cube magic and you're doing all these puzzle related things to create this extraordinary, like impossible moment, like for instance, it has like a quintillion, there's a huge number of permutations to solve the cube, and you go through all your pattern and all this stuff, and then you're saying, it took the guy who created it 3 months to solve this thing, and we're done. Cool. And they're just following along with that. That's impressive. It really is. But in an interview that we watched, the guy was talking about it, and he said, I actually talked to a speedcuber, and the speedcuber wasn't as impressed because, one, he can solve it faster legitimately, and two, he can see the moves that you're using. So the reality of it is it's perspective. It comes back to perspective. That's what it's always about, perspective. And that's something that we constantly work on here on the channel, is seeing it from every perspective. So how would you perform? Go ahead and comment down below with what we've talked about. How would you perform prospectively for the example that we're using? You could use a different example, but along these lines. So let's say you're performing cube magic. You enjoy cube magic, you're performing cube magic, but now you have to perform it for an audience full of cubers, people who solve cubes for a living. What would you do in that situation? Or if you have another example, which is saying that you're performing specific magic based on something, a hobby, that you're full of a room full of the people who actually do that hobby. So let me know down below. Let's go ahead and take a look at superb tricks and the occasional extraordinary moments. Those should be your goals, right? Bona fide magic. What if you could perform real magic? You wave your hand and a cork floats up to your fingers. You rub torn pieces of paper together and they become whole again. You put 3 coins into your hand, close your fingers around them, and only 2 coins remain. You reach forward and produce a coin from the air. What if you really could do those things? Would you do them in front of an audience? And if you did choose to work your miracles for an audience, what would your demeanor be? Perhaps that would depend on how difficult any particular feat was. Would your audience become emotionally involved by watching you? Emotions lubricate the entertainment engine, and in upcoming chapters, we'll be examining techniques for boosting the emotional content of your routines. Emotions generate real magic. That's what we're talking about. You gotta be grounded in the fact that you have to be a part of the story. So now when I talk about stories, sometimes when I do like movie stuff and I talk about it with my friends and stuff, I look at a story from 2 perspectives. One is the writing perspective. Like, did the writer do a good job here from a objective point of view, right? And if that's happening, that means I'm not immersed in the story and I'm losing something because I'm not really sure what's going on because it didn't make sense from a narrative perspective. Or like, say, a character is going on an arc that wasn't projected, like it gets confusing. But the other side of that is a subjective review, which is when you're immersed in the story and you're you're like, don't do that, that's not a good idea, and you can't separate yourself from what's happening because you're a part of it. And so that's a good place to be because that means you're feeling what they're feeling. So a very good idea when you look at your own things and your own routines is to determine whether or not the story that you're telling is one that's compelling. Stalking the extraordinary moment. The stronger the magic, the less need for showmanship. The typical cups and balls routine involves a cascading series of mini climaxes. Balls appear and vanish and reappear, here, then there, then back again, all capped with a kicker ending. The best performers of this classic effect use charm and wit, along with their magic, to hold the audience's attention. Compare that with Blaine's TV presentation of the Raven coin vanish. A young teenage boy out on a barren lot somewhere in Middle America, a coin on his hand is there. David waves his hand over the coin, and the coin is not there, vanished. The boy stands, transfixed, perplexed. After a long moment, he softly mutters, while still staring at his hand, "Cool." Between the cups and balls routine and Blaine's Raven, which will be remembered a week later, which would be remembered a week later as the question, the spectators at the Magic Castle enjoyed the balls mystifyingly coming and going, that is, the tricks, while that scruffy kid had an extraordinary moment. A coin disappeared from his hand. No props, no moves that he was aware of, not one word of useless patter. Warning: do not take this as an invitation to copy Blaine's style. His lacanic half-stone persona probably fits you like a cheap suit on a humid day. I just want to point out that extraordinary moments can be brought forth from props and effects you already own. It's you who makes the moment trivial. It is you who can make the moment extraordinary. So basically, again, that's what's saying is that if you are picking your persona based on an elevated point of view of yourself, so your persona shouldn't be too far from who you normally are. It's just turned up a little bit. You could do the same trick that another magician does, or another person. It doesn't even have to be a magician, and they can perform it better because it fits them better. So make sure that you're choosing tricks that works best for you. And that's something that I'm really trying to work on because I have a lot of tricks. So I need to make sure that what I'm doing fits the persona, which right now I have two personas that I am putting together, but they're kind of the same persona. They're just two sides of the same coin. One is the magically mad Hatter, haha, and the other is the fun, colorful uncle who knows some tricks. He's just got the hair going. He has the Lego and the toys. He's like, look at the new toy I got. Here, let's have fun with this. And just kind of enjoying the atmosphere of being the excitement. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look. See here. Like I said, it's a short chapter. We only got a couple pages left. Magic for magicians versus magic for everyone else. When you read a magic book or magazine, if the description of the effect goes on for more than a couple of sentences, it's probably best done for other magicians. Lay people want direct plots. Anything else is magically... Warning. Anything else is magical masturbation. Done because it makes you feel good and no one else. It's in the book. We got to read it. What do people remember? It's easy to find out. Just ask someone who recently saw a magician or mentalist to tell you what they saw. You'll hear responses similar to, this guy put a nickel and a dime in my hand, and when I opened my hand, the dime wasn't there anymore. He had this girl look at a word in a book, and he told her the word she was thinking about. I picked a card, and he told me what it was. It jumped into his pocket. He tore it up and put it back together. Siegfried put Roy in a box and covered it for a second, and then Roy was gone and a tiger was there. She floated! Exclamation point! Merch coming soon. I feel like that's going to be a thing. Take a look at a magic book or magazine and see how many effects could be described that succinctly. Typically, you see card tricks that involve red cards from blue back decks, counting, weak climaxes, and convoluted plots that force the audience to follow the action closely. That's magic for us and our buddies. It won't get you repeat gigs. And that's a point that I'd like to make because I have done two examples. One is a trick that I absolutely found stunning, beautiful, gorgeous. It took me a little bit to put together, it took me a little bit to learn, and I perform it, and it gets very little reaction. Adversely, I do something flashy that's so simple and blows people's minds. So I can understand this in the sense that there is magic toys that I have. They're just toys. That's all, like Tenyo style toys that perform very well for people and they love it. And then I have done more elaborate things that I've put together that is absolutely amazing. For instance, it's over there, but this is one of my favorite things right here. Not a plug of any kind, but this, I won't tell you what it is, but if you know, you know. I've been performing that with my own little routine that I put together, and it's pretty stellar. It needs some work, but that's in performance practice as it gets better. So, where are we at? That's magic for us and our buddies. It won't get you repeat gigs. Consider this excerpt from an interview with David Blaine that appeared in Newsday, the Long Island, New York newspaper, on November 7th, 2002. Reporter David Burins wrote the story, and the interview took place in Blaine's New York City apartment. Blaine produced a fresh, unopened deck of cards. When the deck is thoroughly shuffled, he fans the cards and asks one of his visitors, think of a card. He places the card on the arm of a chair, and he will not touch the deck again. He places the deck on the arm of the chair. The visitor is instructed to pick up the deck, hold it in his left hand, and announce which card he selected. The 3 of Hearts, the visitor says. Now cut the deck somewhere in the middle, Blaine says. The deck is cut and the top half of the card set aside. That's your card, Blaine says, indicating the top card on the lower half of the deck. The visitors are silent, astonished. The card, naturally, is the Three of Hearts. Now, first, fight the urge to analyze the how of the effect. Newspaper reporters are no better than others at accurately remembering all the details of a trick, so this may not be exactly what transpired. The important issue here is that, as in most of Blaine's magic, overt show business never makes an appearance. And the plot, think of a card, cut the cards, that's your card, could not be more to the point. The spectators had an extraordinary moment. They sat, silent, astonished. The stranger the magic, the less need for showmanship. The corollary, naturally, must be that weaker magic requires more help from the performer. And that's where lack of natural talent rears its ugly head. If you're not an extroverted, funny, or dramatic person in real life, you especially need to raise your showmanship level for your less powerful effects. You'll learn how later on. Most performed magic is weak, and is best performed only for others interested in the art. The best performed magic and mentalism have always been, and always will be, direct, immediately understandable, and compelling enough to be recalled days later. How much of your show fits that description? The trivialization of magic. Routines tumble down the above hierarchy, i.e., extraordinary moments become tricks and tricks become puzzles, because of the attitude of the performer. When he treats a trick or any magical moment as easy, commonplace, or anything else than special, he dulls the impact of that routine. A trivial stunt, by definition, cannot be special, yet we see this attitude every day in magic. So, for instance, what I would take this as, at the beginning when I did my trick, and then I pointed out that it's a move that is incredibly hard. What I've done is I've taken that from a magical moment of the card magically jumping from place to place, and I've switched it up to more of it's a trick, it's a puzzle, but in some ways I've taken away what makes it magical by making it a technique. But I may have made it more impressive telling you that it's harder. But does that hurt the effect or make it better? Depending on who's watching, go ahead and let me know down below. A specific example on the website for L&L Publishing, I came across a video clip from one of the most respected performers and teachers in magic, Michael Amar. The website blurb said, Michael Amar does the impossible as he performs the floating lifesaver in this clip from Easy to Master Thread Miracles Volume 3. Here's what we see. Michael, standing in front of the usual L&L audience of excessively enthusiastic and good-looking young adults, starts by saying, you know, when I was growing up, my favorite candy was a lifesaver. You know, and I used to eat these little things and think, why are these lifesavers? I mean, because as a kid, I'm just like, well, these must, save people's lives. I didn't realize it was like this little thing that you would throw overboard and everything. But lifesavers, to me, always represented this really amazing, possibly, So I thought I'd do something with a lifesaver. Now, let's see. I'm going to see if I can't get it trained here. Let's see. And he whistles at the lifesaver as if it were a cute pet, and sure enough, it moves, then floats around in front of him. Finally, it floats all the way into his mouth. After the candy floats up to his mouth, he laughs along with the spectators and says, "Isn't that neat?" Now, at least you misunderstand my comments. This is a brilliant and baffling effect, and my guess is that Michael does not perform in this manner for paid gigs. The candy truly floats around in wonderfully mysterious ways. But what's with the patter? It's a stereotypical version of what many close-up performers say, but it's not especially funny. It doesn't tell the audience anything fascinating or clever or interesting. Instead, it almost mocks the magic itself by momentarily shifting the focus to the young Michael and his sweet tooth and his questions about candy. Then the hackneyed ploy of whistling at an object before it moves, which may play fun at children's shows but serves little purpose when presented to adults. But lifesavers to me always represented this really amazing possibility, So I thought I would do something with a lifesaver. Why did that represent an amazing possibility? It's a non sequitur that is suddenly thrown into the pattern. So I thought I'd do something with a lifesaver. Do something? It sounds so casual. Not mysterious, not funny, not dramatic. It's the type of remark that might be said by an interior decorator. Let's please do something with that window treatment, but it's not terribly appropriate for a miracle worker. Again, this trick is a piece of strong magic. It's the presentation that squelches a potential extraordinary moment into a very nice trick. Think about every word you say. Analyze your every action. This is not a quick process. I watched that brief clip several times before I began to appreciate its strengths and the potential areas for improvement. You want your presentational skills to equal or exceed your magic technique. Both goals require time, dedication, and effect. All magic, at its core, is a puzzle. Presentation, and presentation only, is the lever that elevates a puzzle to a trick, or a trick to an extraordinary moment. Raise your level. Boom. So we made our way through chapter 2. Absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous. So let's say, for instance, we want to end with a nice little trick here. And we've got our 2 coins here. They go into the hand. And now 1 coin has magically disappeared. Okay? Let's say we take that coin and we put it into my pocket, but not get it mixed into the hair. It will actually jump back into the hand. Absolutely amazing. Let's go ahead and take that coin once again and put it into the pocket, but it jumps back into the hand. You know what? That's not really going to work for us. So I guess we're just going to have to do something more like this, where we take the coin and we simply throw it to the hand of the hand. Now, with the camera frame, that looks pretty good. But if we did it a little bit differently, for instance, if we take that coin from here to here, and now we simply make the coin jump back to the backhand, it gets a little bit more impressive. Awesome. Awesome. Once again, from here to here, we've actually learned a little bit more about making this look a little bit more impressive. When you take it from here to here, yeah, it's actually going in the pocket this time. Ta-da! So, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of fun. It's beautiful. And it's a nice little coin routine just to end up and break up the monotony of the read aloud. Yes, we're doing a read aloud of Maximum Entertainment 2.0. Don't forget to stick around for up to 3 hours. We're doing the super thanks and super chats donation in order to do the sponsored book gift away. If you need Amazon, the link will be down below. And always remember, stay positive, stay active, and stay awesome. And don't forget to subscribe. It really does help out the channel. And of course, over here is a video that's just for you. Yeah, just for you. Ta-da!